Okay, 6-4, nth roots. So today is called nth roots because typically, you guys are used to algebra 1. Typically, you would call everything a square root. Anytime you saw this sign, you guys called it a square root. Is it really a square root all the time? No, sometimes it's a cubed root. Sometimes it's a fourth root, right? So really, it's not always a square root. So today's nth roots. Today, we're going to have different numbers inside here, okay? So if a to the n is equal to b, then a is an nth root of b. So I'll show you with numbers what that means in a second, okay? So these are kind of vocab words here. So this inside of here is called the index. This is called the radicand. And this is called the radical sign, not the square root sign like people tend to call it. It's called a radical sign. It's only a square root sign if that's a little 2 or nothing, which means a 2. Did you guys get that? Okay? So, before we actually do anything, let's do this. Square root of x to the 6, just like on our review or our warm-up today, right? What is the square root of x to the 6? X to the third. Do you guys need help remembering why that's the answer? You guys were good with x squared and you were good with x to the 4, but once I changed it on you, maybe not so much. You don't seem as confident to me. So the reason that's what it is, you may have forgotten, we covered it a while ago. This is really a 2, right? It's an invisible 2, okay, because it's a square root on this one. So the reason we got that is x to the 6 over 2, which is 3. There's other ways to think of it, but typically in Algebra 2 they get harder and you don't want to actually think about it. You just want to do the rule, I think. So it's 6 over 2, which is 3. Is that okay? So before I actually finish this one, before today you thought this was done. Today there's a nitpicky rule that we have to learn, okay? So I want you to write down even. This is a root, okay? This is a radical sign. And I'm going to have any even number here, a 2, a 4, a 6, an 8, whatever. And then I'm going to have x to the even. And if it equals x to an odd, you have to use absolute values. So I'll say that again. Even, odd gets absolute values. Just like here. Even, odd, absolute values. That's something you probably did not talk about much in Algebra 1, but now that we're in Algebra 2, we're going to use it often. If you really want to know why that exists or why that's true, you can come see me later and I'll tell you all about it. But if not, it's just a little rule that you have to remember, okay? If you get everything else right and you forgot the absolute values, am I going to give you 0 points? No, I'll probably take off like a half. Thank you. I'd take off like a half, right? It's important, and I want you to remember it, but to me, some of our answers are going to be like kind of long. If that's the only thing you forgot, you get the point, you just forgot a nitpicky rule. So try to remember it, okay? But don't think like you're going to fail a test if you forget that, all right? So that's kind of the only new thing that we have to talk about today. So I'm going to skip all this other stuff because all this other stuff is answered when we do the questions, and I think that looks probably pretty intimidating to you. So we'll kind of get there today and whatever the next day that we have school is, okay? So let's just ignore the sign for right now, all right? Oh, here, I made it so you could read it. Here we go. Plus or minus square root of 100y to the 8th. That's been copied so many times I don't think you can see it, okay? If you need to rewrite it, rewrite it. So ignore the sign for right now. Pretend it's not there, all right? What's the square root of 100? 10. What's the square root of y to the 8? Y to the 4. Is everybody comfortable with that, right? You have to check it. Even, only on the exponents of the variables do I have to check. Even, yes. Even, yes. Odd, no. So no absolute values here, okay? If they had a plus or a minus, it means they want you to keep the plus or minus. I could explain that differently, but for today, I feel like that's good enough. If they have a plus or minus sign, put a plus or minus sign. That means that's the answer that they want, okay? Is everybody okay? All right. On this one, ignore the sign for right now, all right? What's the square root of 49? 7. What's the square root of u to the 8? U to the 4. V to the 6. The sign is there, so they want you to keep it. What they're saying is, let me give you an example really quickly. You don't have to write this down, just pay attention, okay? The square root of 4, what do most of you usually say that is? It's 2, right? If we go backwards and we check it, 2 squared is 4. What else squared is 4? Negative 2, right? So technically, the answer to the square root of 4 is plus or minus 2. But when they just give you the square root of 4, they're saying, I just want your positive answer. If they gave you this, they're saying, hey, I just want the negative answer. If they give you this, they're saying, I want both answers. Do you see what I'm saying? So basically what that means is when they give you a sign, they want that answer. So just kind of ignore the sign, do the problem, and write the sign down. Does that kind of make more sense now? It's okay if it doesn't make sense. You can just do what I said to do. I just like to explain it if I can. Okay? So on this one, you don't want to ignore the sign, right? When I said ignore the sign, I meant these signs for like a second. What's the square root of negative 16? 4i. Very good. 4i, right? And then the square root of y to the 4 is y to the second. Okay? There wasn't a sign in front, which means they want the positive answer, which is what we gave them. Okay? Here's what we have to check. I don't think we did on the last one. We'll go back in a second. I always forget to. Even, odd? No? So what do we not need? Absolute values, right? I don't think we checked it on this one, right? Even, not odd. Even, not odd. Is that okay? Okay. On this question, the 6th root of 64. You probably need a calculator, so get your calculator out. This is why I really encourage you to bring a calculator. You can use your cell phone if you have to, that's fine, but it's not going to be the same buttons. So I really need you to make sure you're bringing your calculator every day. So calculator or phone, or if you have neither, lean to a neighbor today that has a calculator like yours so you can at least see what we're doing, okay? So take the 6th root of 64. If you forgot how to do that, I'll let you know in just a second. Should get 2. So on most of your calculators, I think you have this button. Okay. Anybody not have that button? You have a different calculator? I'm trying to think of the other options. A phone? You don't have this button if you turn it to the side? I think you do.
There we go. Where's it at? It's still the same thing.
Yeah, help each other or come see me because you all have different calculators, so it'll take a minute.
Did you get it?
You may not. I don't remember. Is everybody good? So what do we get for the 6th root of 64? 2. So this is taken care of. Okay? And if you don't have one today, lean to a neighbor or figure it out later. You'll be all right. Okay? Let's pretend, that's a little scary, right? Let's pretend that just said x to the 18 for 2 seconds. If it said x to the 18, what would we say? X to the 18 over 6, which is 3. But it doesn't say x. It says 2y plus 1. So it's 2y plus 1 to the 3. I'm going to say that again. I know you guys are trying to figure out your calculator. So what I just said was, this looks scary. So I was like, hey, just kidding. Let's just say it's x to the 18. That's less scary, right? So that'd be 18 over 6, which is 3. Well, it's still that guy to the 3. That's all I did. Is that okay? So you don't ever have to check the numbers, but you do have to check the variables. Even, odd. So absolute values. Is that okay? And there weren't any signs in front, so they indicated that they wanted the positive answer, which is what we gave. Are you guys all right?
Can you explain
Yeah.
why it goes on the right side of the 2?
It goes on whatever had the even, odd exponent, which was just this, which is just this. It's never on the number. Yeah.
Are we still going to keep simplifying this?
No. Yeah, we're done. Don't FOIL that or don't do anything like that. That's not the point. That's not what we do here. So don't do that. Yeah, this is done. Good question. Are you guys okay? Okay. So Audrey, if this had said 64x to the 18 like this, you would have said 2x to the 3. Does that make sense? It's the same thing. Okay? All right. On this one, ignore the sign for a minute. Okay? You try this part. Everybody, I think, in here can do this part. So what's the square root of 16? 4, square root of c to the 4. C squared, d to the 1 technically, which I don't need. The sign's still there. Check for even, even, odd. Does anything need absolute values? The d does, right? Because it's d to the 1, which is odd. So even, even, not odd, even, even, odd, because d to the 1. Is that okay? Okay. So again, it's x to the 16. So I'm going to get x to the 8, because 16 over 2 is 8, right? But it's not x, it's x squared plus 6. No matter what math class you're in, make it look as easy as you can, right? I can call this whatever I want it to be, and then just replace it later with x squared plus 6. It's the same idea. Okay? Is that an even, even, odd? Nope. It's good. What? Okay. This one, let's do together. Let's just do this part. This is going to be x plus 2 to the what? 4. Everybody comfortable with that? So we took care of that. This is really negative 1. What's the square root of negative 1? I. Okay? So I purposely didn't tell you something on number 5, and it's now coming up again on 25. What do 5 and 25 have in common? They have an I in common. So there's another nitpicky rule. So we've got our even, even, odd rule. Okay? There's something else I need to show you, but I wanted to make sure you were a little bit more confident before I confuse you. When you have an I come out, we'll go back to 5 in a second. Technically, I need to think about this on my own. I should say plus or minus. I'll show you why in just a second. Okay? So let's go to number 5 as well. All right? I had an I come out, so I should technically say plus or minus. And let me explain why. Again, you don't have to write this part down. I want to show you where it comes from, but you can just memorize it if you want to. So the reason for that is, if I were to take backwards like we did, where did we do it? Here? Remember when we went backwards to understand why technically that answer was plus or minus, but they just wanted the negative? Okay? I'm going to do that again. I'm going to take 4iy squared squared to see if I get this back. Okay? So 4 squared is 16. I squared is, I squared, yeah, we'll get there in a second, and that's y to the 4. What's I squared? Negative 1. So is this the same as the question? Yes. But you'll see in a second that so is this. Because what's negative 4 squared? 16. Still I squared, still y to the 4. So still that. That's why that rule exists. So you don't have to do this a million times. So basically what I'm saying is, if you have an even here, and you end up with an I, which that's the only time it'll happen anyway. You won't have an odd and get an I. That doesn't happen, okay? So if you pull out an I, is what I'm saying, you need a plus or minus sign. So somewhere you need to make yourself a note. I don't know how else to say it. If you pull out I, use plus or minus. If you have a better way to say it, let me know. But so on number 5, we had to think about that, and on 25, we had to think about that because we pulled out an I. Lucas is falling asleep. We need a light on. You gonna be all right, or you need a light? I see the light. Okay, we're on 35. Here we go. Use your calculator, or some of you can figure it out. What's the 5th root of 32? 2. Use the calculator, though. I want you to feel comfortable using that because it's not going to be pretty anymore. It's not going to be square roots all the time, okay? And then a to the 3rd, b to the 2nd. Do we need to check for even, even, odd? We don't even need to check for it. Why? Because it's a 5. It's not even. Don't check. Does that make sense? Anybody confused? Okay. Backside. Use a calculator to approximate each value to 3 decimal places. Give me a fancy way to say 3 decimal places. tenth, hundredth, thousandth. Okay? Thousandth. Okay? So, I want you to punch in exactly what you see. It has a negative, and then a square root, and then a 150. If you punch it into your calculator exactly how you see it, it should give you the right answer. So this is approximately, that means I rounded, and what do you get? Very good. Negative 12.247. Okay? Is anyone not getting that and need help? Okay. It's right here. Negative 12.247. You good? On this one, punch in exactly what you see. If they say use a calculator, use the calculator. Okay? And what do you get on this one? Negative 5.350. Or you can give me negative 5.35. This isn't chemistry. We don't really care about sig figs today. Okay? So if you put the 0, fine. If you don't, fine. I don't care. Anybody confused? It's not working. You're not punching them in right? Yeah. Did you do fifth root and the negative underneath? Bring it over. Something's weird. It would do that if you did square root, because it thinks it's an I and it's really not. Let's see. Fifth root?
Negative 4, 2,
4382. You're punching in wrong. It's 4382. What in the world? Fifth root. What did I say? 4382.
negative.
Oh, thank you. Insert. Where's your
No,
insert
it's
button?
just this.
Yeah, but I wanted to insert it instead of. It's fine. It's fine. I don't know. Did you use negative or did you use a minus sign?
Use negative.
Okay. It should work. I don't know what happened. If that ever happens again, let me know.
Alright.
Okay. Everybody okay? Okay, great. These last, 1, 2, 3, I want you to do these last 3 because there's nothing new I'm going to tell you. So here's what you need to keep in mind. Even, odd, right, gets what? Absolute values. If you get an I, you need to write plus or minus. So try these 3, and then we'll go over them. Who wants to come right on my fancy thing? Come write the answer. Who has 47? Somebody's got it. Come on. Okay. You'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's going to look messy, but that's okay. So if you hover first, you can see where you are, and then you can write. Okay? Maybe I should have done the pen.
Yeah.
But then we'll have to calibrate it. Blah, blah.
This is bad.
It's okay. Okay, and I'll rewrite it. Good job. The answer's right. Okay, so we get 14 absolute value of c cubed d squared is what she tried to do. Do you have a little more like appreciation for how good I am? See how hard it is? I gotta watch this. I gotta watch that. I gotta watch Lucas falling asleep. It's a lot of stuff. Okay? He wasn't the only one, by the way. Okay, next question. Who wants to come up? Come on. No, it wasn't you. Yeah. And if you hover, you can see where you're writing, but it's okay.
Get up there, Garrett.
It's all right. Oh, wow. I know what you're trying to say.
Supposed to be a 3.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about it. What is the cubed root of negative 27? Negative 3, that's good, right? 15 over 3 is 8 to the 5th, that's good. 9 over 3 is 3. However, that's not even. So there's no absolute values. Okay? So this would be your answer without absolute values. Is that all right?
So why don't you pull out an I plus -27?
Okay, so there's multiple answers to that. Did you guys have an I, some of you? So let's just start with just use your calculator. If you punch in cubed root of negative 27, it'll tell you it's negative 3. Here's why, all right? Because negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3, that's negative 3 cubed, isn't it? Right? Is negative 27. There's no I, okay? There's only an I when you have an even here, or when your calculator blows up, right? If you try to punch it in with your calculator, it gives you error, which means there's probably an I. So you can either use your calculator and trust it, negative 3 is true, that's right, because that's what works out, right? So the reason that this has an I is because 2 squared isn't 4, and negative 2 squared, 2 squared isn't negative 4. Wow. And negative 2 squared isn't negative 4. So that's why we had to come up with an I, so that way we could do the problem. This one doesn't need anything fancy. Negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 is negative 27. Is that okay? So either use your calculator and trust it, or know that you only have I's when it's even radicands right here. Even index, sorry. Is this okay now? Do you guys get it now? Okay. Anybody want to try this one?
I'll do it again.
I think Garrett.
Garrett looks like he's kind of wanting to. Come on over. Next time I'll use the pen for you guys. I just didn't want to waste time calibrating, but we're having to rewrite it anyway, aren't we?
Where do you write it? Right here?
Yeah, right there. So look up there and write, basically.
Alright, whatever.
Okay.
Alright.
Mm-hmm. Whoa, whoa, don't push the button.
Oh god.
Just push down. Just click on, there you go.
Oh
It's okay. Oh, what happened? Where'd it go?
Oh my god.
You deleted the page. Oh, okay. Just write your answer down.
This is all I'm recording here.
That's all right.
This is hard.
Oh yes, Garrett. Better than
Okay.
Stop grunting while you're doing it.
Yes, Garrett.
I'm about to say it. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Do I add absolute values?
Uh-huh. To something. You're not lifting weights. It's a pen. Thank you. Okay. Let's write the original question, all right? We had, he erased it. It's fine. I can write it again. 16 and a 6, right? Is that right? So what's the square root of 400? 20. 16 divided by 2 is 8. And, well, there isn't one. It's an understood 2. If it's a square root, it's a 2 there, right? So you were super close, but not right. So the y cubed still does have an absolute value. Do you guys have any questions? Did you get those right without me? Yeah. Okay. You guys need some practice writing, I think. But other than that, you're good. All right. So